Good morning, Devil Dog Day Trade community. If this is your first time joining us today, my name is Michael, and I'll be walking all of us through our day trade setup process for today, December 22nd, 2021. A special welcome to all of you who have served or are serving in the armed forces, and an even more special welcome to all of my fellow Marines out there. Semper Fi, Jarheads. Just a note, we do present information here that is relevant to all levels of understanding and experience. So even if you are brand new to this, some of the information that we share here should resonate with you and should be understandable. If it's not, just drop us a comment in the chat so we can make sure that we explain it to you well. If you're watching this video later, just leave a comment in the comment section or shoot us an email so we can make sure we get those questions answered for you. Just a couple of administrative updates. Given the time of year that this is, with the holiday coming up for Christmas and New Year's, this will be the last show we do this week. I'll take tomorrow and Friday off. We'll be back next week, though, on Monday at 8:15 Eastern Time to continue our daily sessions, along with some additional educational videos and some other content that we hope you guys find interesting and useful as we continue our day trading experience together. Just note that the stream can be delayed a little bit on YouTube, so if you post a comment and you don't see an answer immediately, that could be one of the reasons why, but we will get to it when it shows up on my comment section here. Just a quick review of all the stuff that's happened in the last day, and then what we look forward to, and we'll look at what's coming up today and also throughout the rest of the week, since we won't be here for the next 2 days. So just note here, nothing really big happened yesterday. You saw we just had a couple of really small announcements there for the U.S. Markets at 8:30 and 10. Those did not cause any significant events to happen. And then, sorry, I guess that's supposed to be on Tuesday. Right there, we actually had just the one at 8:30. Today coming up, we've got small announcements at 8:30 and then at 10 as well. You can see those are just the orange folders, which means they typically don't impact the U.S. markets to any extreme levels, so nothing that we'll really have to worry about here. And then for Thursday, we do have just the one thing there for the U.S. markets, which is a core PCE price index, and you do have a Canadian GDP month-over-month announcement. Again, though, this time of year, those typically do not impact the markets drastically. And then you can see there Friday, nothing at all. Most of the markets will be closed on Friday for the holiday time. So just a real quick agenda. What we're going to do today, we'll look at our correlation markets just to get a good feel for where we are in the bigger context for the day. And then we'll take a look at U.S. index markets just to follow up with our discussion yesterday about the potential, late Santa Claus rally and whether this market has a little bit of strength to it right now. And then we'll do a much deeper dive, of course, into crypto for Wednesdays. We'll look through all of our bag of currencies, look at some longer-term trades, what the overall cryptocurrency market's looking like, but also try and set up several day trades for us again. And then we'll do, of course, follow up on the day trades that we've been watching for the last couple of days too. So, starting with DAX market here on TradingView, as you can just see here from a general overall perspective from our, sorry, I meant to go to the daily chart here, not the hourly one. We are still coming back up out of this weekly zone again for the second time. We've had 2 relatively strong days in a row, a little bit of an even day today so far, which again, not unexpected given where we're at in the later on in the week now with the holiday period coming up. Just much less movement in, usually in this time frame overall. So that's, again, not unexpected to see there. I'm just very quickly looking through the charts here, and there is nothing that's jumping out at me. Nothing changed significantly. There's obviously no big moves, and no significant zones have been created here for the last couple of days. So just note that the overall market is basically going sideways right now, so be careful with longer term trades. Let's flip over to TradeStation platform. We'll do most of our looks here, and we'll start with the dollar, as we always do. And just, again, everything is pretty much going sideways. We'll just go to the areas of interest right off the bat, when we did talk about this one quite a bit yesterday. And this area in comparison to the euro currency as well. And what we did see, we talked about this generally speaking, this downtrend line here that was going in response to this demand zone here. And we said if this broke, we would expect a bigger push up, and we got a medium push up, not really a bigger one. However, the reason why this area was still interesting to us is because of the corresponding opposing zones on the euro. And so even though we broke down through this area here, if we just quickly, and I'll take you to the euro futures right now, you can see, and sometimes, these, even though the zones don't line up perfectly, you can still use them to get good indications of what each of the markets may do. And so you've got this very, very solid 60-minute supply zone right here, which is very closely lined up with the demand zone on the dollar, but not perfectly. And so this area right here may cause that area just to we'll go through that particular zone, but the entire area may still work overall, and that you'll see the dollar pick up as the euro drops down out of this zone here. And if you look on the Euro USD Forex area, so one of the reasons why I like trading the Euro future and the Euro USD Forex is because you've got so many different securities that you can use to validate what zones are going to work and which ones aren't. And so you'll see here that this same zone in the 60-minute chart is sitting just a little bit lower. And did say yesterday, you might make sure that there, always full transparency here, that I did have that trade set up there. So I'm in this right now, and you can see prices come out of it, not very strong right now. We'll stick in it at least down to a 1-to-1 to maybe take some of the position off as break even, and then just see how much further down we go here. And the reason that I might do that, again, it's not 100% sure. It all depends on what that zone ends up happening on the dollar chart. This was not a pure set and forget according to my trading rules, and so I do monitor those ones. And if we don't get this good, solid, strong move out, then I can adjust down to a risk mitigation trade, which is taking half of the position off at that 1-to-1. So that's where we sit from a dollar perspective, and there really isn't anything else here. You can remember we did set up this area right below on the 15-minute chart, which is right, part of that 60-minute, and then a little bit right below it. And as you can see, price came down here, and this may be what is holding this up as well as part of those opposing zones on the euro and the USD, or the Euro futures and the Euro USD Forex pair. Let's jump over to VIX and see what our volatility is doing right now. And really, there's only a couple of key areas here we have to look at to understand what's going on here. We still have on the 240-minute chart this very, very solid supply zone up above. Again, we would absolutely expect when price gets into this area, specifically if it lines up with some of the bigger demand zones on our daily charts for our U.S. indexes, this could be the significant turning point right here. And as you can see, we just dropped down from close to it, haven't gotten back up there yet, and that's because of these zones on the 60-minute chart. And so we are bouncing right between these two zones, which is kind of what we expected from our comments yesterday, right? Especially as the volatility drops for the end of this week. It will pick up next week, though, and in particular, will really pick up the first week of January. So we would expect price to just kind of bounce back and forth between here. What we're really hoping for, right, is it does that for another day or two to set up some nice white space in here, which then makes taking either of these two areas here as significant areas of movement, makes them much more powerful. Just a note too on volatility, particularly coming into the new year. I'm going to tell this little piece of information, knowing that this is not direct experience that I have. I've never been, a professional in this area, but I've heard several other people talk about it. And you think about the incentive and payout structures for a lot of the financial institutions, right? They're paid out on an annual basis. And so what I have been told a lot of the professionals do is they work very hard, starting on January 1st up through until they meet those quotas, and so there's higher volatility and a lot more trades being taken in those time frames. But then once they hit that, which typically seems to be about the April, May, June time frame, a lot of that trading activity does back off because the individuals have met their quotas, and so therefore they don't have to work as hard. So you may see some additional volatility in the earlier parts of the year versus the latter parts. Again, just passing information that I've been told, not anything that I have direct experience with. As you can see right now, and if you're watching any other live charts, I've got one of my other dashboards up on the left-hand screen over here. All of the indexes are coming down right now in the last 15 to 30 minutes areas. The ES leading that charge down, and you'll see the VIX is moving up right now. Although we don't have any zones that it's moving up out of, it's just kind of moving on its own right now. So nothing that we can use for correlations here. All right, let's just take a look at the Nikkei. Again, while we do trade it, it is mostly a reference market for us. So it's been open while the U.S. markets have been closed. And, you can just real quickly see here on, each of the charts, prices really is just moving in this very small area here, not doing anything significant. I'll bring that up on a 60-minute chart just to indicate it, right? So since it's opened yesterday, it's moved back and forth just in this very, very small area, almost the exact same area that it moved in yesterday as well. So as I'm looking through this, until we get up into this upper area here at 29,000, nothing that we're interested in. And then looking down and left, there isn't any good solid zones either that I'm interested in. So this is another one of those ones you'd probably just stay away from for the rest of this week, unless you're looking for just, some very, very small day trades on the lower time frames. I skip those on this market just because of the lack of volume in it. All right, U.S. index markets. So just daily context real quick. Let's zoom in on this. We have, a lot of white space over here to the left. So again, we haven't hit any areas where we're taking any long-term trades at. We really need to get down to this zone at 44.75 before we do so. Good, strong, solid update yesterday, and just a tiny little bit of weakness right now. But again, as we looked at yesterday, there is some additional strength on this move up versus the last couple of ones that we have seen. So 60-minute chart. We are seeing this very, very strong, pinch. These are pinches on the Bollinger Bands here versus a bulge, where you see the lines dramatically extending out. And if you just look back through the chart, every time you see a pinch like this happen, you get a pretty significant move out of it. So right now, overall, we are biased up just because of the strength that we saw in multiple markets before. Keep in mind, we still have to manage and monitor our trend. And so trend is still sideways here, so we don't have a strong bias up, just a little bit of bias up right now. And then jumping down to a 15-minute chart just to see if there's anything that we want to take immediate advantage of. And we do have this, we had this very weak area that we talked about yesterday. And I remember I said, if you're talking an overnight zone like this, you want a quick retracement into it, preferably before the U.S. markets opened. And so what you saw here was we didn't get down there, and as soon as the U.S. markets opened, it dropped right down and then just busted right through it. It was, again, very much expected to happen. So today, we do have this area right here. I would actually draw this out. So this is can go either way. Typically speaking, any long position, so demand zones on the index markets will hit and react almost immediately. If they don't react to a demand zone immediately, they typically won't respect the entire thing. So this is one where I would probably just draw the zone right here rather than drawing the entire thing out, because this technically is 2 base candles right here. Right? However, that's a lot more risk. I'd rather just take this bit of it, and if it doesn't work, then the rest of the zone is not likely to work anyways. This is right below the overnight trading area, so a little bit of additional strength there that this zone may work. Again, remember, we're not taking longer term trades here, so treat this as a day trade and then get in and out, on whatever target a target that you have in your trade plan. All right, looking at NASDAQ, let's see what we've got here. Again, very strong move back up out of that daily zone. Nothing significant on our 240 yet. We had the same pinch coming, or squeeze, I guess, another thing you can call it too. I've heard that too. So squeeze on your Bollinger Bands here. Expect a moderate size move out from there. As we're looking though down and left, nothing that is of interest, and then up and left, nothing there either on a 60-minute chart. So let's look on 15 to see if we can take any other smaller time frame trades here. And you've got this area that we had previously before that is still working. Oddly enough, usually short position or short supply zones, right? Shorts in the index markets don't work repeatedly like that. We do have something similar to what's on the ES with this zone right here. It's a little bit further down below, so the odds are a little bit lower that this is actually going to work. But just keep that in mind. If price comes into here at the same time it does the ES, that could be an additional odds enhancer that it could work for us. All right, RTY. We did get a very, very strong move up on RTY versus some of the other indexes that we had. And we are back up into this previous daily area that we really wanted the purple line to break down here before we took this as a trade. And just to kind of get an idea of how far it went, this is our nominal target area here, which is right below it. So even if we did take this trade, it wouldn't have hit our target yet. So that's probably a good indication of not a good, strong, full move out of there yet. Nothing on a 240-minute chart. We do have this area that we commented on for the 60-minute area, and we said this was one to watch, mostly because of the overall strength that we saw throughout the rest of the markets. This wasn't a trade to automatically take. However, at this point, that may have changed. So we've got we are punching up through the Bollinger Band here. We're getting this squeeze on. This is an actual zone. And we've got a tiniest little bit of negative divergence on RSI. So let me just jump over here to a 15-minute chart and see. So we got the same 15-minute area here, well, almost the same, where we did come up into it and pop down out of it and are still in this one. We had a little bit of negative divergence on RSI at both of these points as it came up above, and now we've created a couple of little zones right here. So if you wanted to take, a lower probability but still pretty decent short here as a day trade, this is probably going to be your best option right here. Again, you're going to need a pretty quick retracement up into here though, prior to price breaking down below this line here. If price breaks down below here, I would not take this trade. If you can get price to come right up in here in the next 15 minutes or so, this might be a good retracement to take, since it's embedded in that 15-minute zone. It's also embedded in the other 60-minute zone as well. All right. YM. Just again, we don't usually look at the YM, but since it's the one that actually moved price out from this daily zone, we do want to pay attention to it right now. And again, zoom in on this real quick just for reference. Right, we did come up out of here. This was the zone that changed the direction of the indexes before. Nothing else above it that we're seeing that could prevent this from moving further up either. Nothing on the 240-minute time frame. We've got a tiny little zone here on a 60, and honestly, the location of this zone is nearly perfect. So you could really low risk here, very small zone. So this would not be a bad place to try and get short on the YM as well. You do have some area right above it. This is a little messy, but again, you might want to get confirmation in this area. If price breaks through that first zone, look for it to come up into the second area and then jump down to your 15-minute chart. Look for some additional confirmation on that area before you actually take it. All right, 15-minute here. So we had said kind of the same thing for this long here, where we were, you wanted price to come back down quickly into here in the overnight markets. In this case, it almost came down to this area, right? It missed it by low here of 35.040, and this was 38 that we had set up. So just missed that, but indications that that is a stronger area. And then you've got this same 15-minute zone here. The location of this one is not nearly as good as the other ones. And as you can see, it's still fairly below the overnight trading area. So still a zone, and it's along in an index market. So you've got that's an odds enhancer that it could work in your favor there. And again, we do think that there's a little bit of additional strength in the index market. So honestly, probably not a bad place to take a trade. All right. Let's see. I want to just look at oil real quick before we get into our crypto markets. Again, we had some really good movements on oil the last couple of days, and I just want to point out some areas that have been created that are of interest. You do see on a 45-minute chart, which we don't normally look at, but it's got a really good picture here. So you've got this area here that worked out very, very well, and I had it marked as that it could possibly work again, but you needed confirmation here, and as you can see, it didn't. You do have this upper area as well. Again, price came close to it and has now fallen away. Typically speaking, means you probably aren't. It's probably not going to work there. However, you got another area right here, which could be a pretty reasonable one to take, especially if you get a little bit more back and forth movement here, right? Create a little bit more white space, and then price drops down into here. Very, very solid place to take a trade at. Keep in mind, right, we are on a 240-minute chart, still back and forth between these zones. Because price has been in the supply zone so many times, I would expect it to struggle getting through here, but this will not stop it. So price will continue to go up through this zone. It should not hit here and then make a significant move back down through the $66 range. And we've got some additional, demand zones on the 60-minute chart that kind of, lend some credence to that as well. You've got this area here. It's a little bit messier, right? I would look for confirmation in here before I took something, but it's a good area. And then on a 15-minute chart, nothing up and left, because I'm not looking to short on a smaller time frame here. But if you look down and left, and I don't like the wick on this one so much, but again, you're right below. Oil doesn't quite as much matter from the trading the overnight areas, but because it is sitting right below it, and the zone location is good, particularly when you look left. It took out this pivot here, so you probably get a really good solid day trade off of this area. All right, let's go ahead and look at our cryptocurrencies now. We'll spend a little bit of time again looking at just the bigger picture, and we'll set up some additional day trades as well, and we'll look over the ones that we've done earlier this week. We've had a couple of them that have worked out very, very well. Flip back over to TradingView and bring up. So for Bitcoin, just a quick look at the overall daily area here. You will see, right, we are just bouncing back and forth in this area. We're creating some nice white space. You do have this, there's a couple of different names for this, right? This is, a channel down here where you've got this, kind of had a very even set of lower highs and then a very even set of lower lows. Other people, it can also be called a bull flag, right? As the price drops down in this manner where it's going back and forth but dropping a little bit lower, that typically means once it hits a good demand zone that you're going to get a strong move back up out of here. And technically speaking, we didn't get all the way down to our daily demand zone, but so I wouldn't expect a stronger move out of here. However, we are creating a little bit of strength in this area, right? So you've got this little tiny area here, a little bit of strength in this zone. I wouldn't expect it to be to hold off for a very large move, but you might get a reasonable trade out of that area there. Again, just showing some overall strength in Bitcoin. We almost got up to this 240-minute area here, and the reason why that's interesting is when you look at the overall structure of this area, right? These two zones here, this is a picture perfect zone. You got your rally, your base drop out of here. First one just barely punched up through, but then worked, and the second one didn't quite hit, even though price is now moving down out of it, and it's moving down out of it because, let me just draw this zone here real quick for us, and I will add this bottom part here as well. So the reason why it's moving out of here is, right, we came up and we hit this same area on a 60-minute chart. And again, just punched up a little bit more, so I'm tracking all this stuff. It does look like we've got quite a few zones now that are wicking out, and would just be stopping us out. So what we'll probably end up doing is moving our stops out a little bit on some of these trades. But this area here was embedded in that other 240-minute picture perfect zone. So that's why sometimes when you have those picture perfect zones, you actually want to take the entire zone rather than trying to find the exact entry point in there. Again, we'll watch it and we'll see. And as we get more data on that, we'll get a better understanding of how cryptocurrencies respond to the concept of a picture perfect zone. Overall, though, I mean, we've still got a fair amount of strength here. We are coming up to a known supply area, so we would not be surprised to see this bit of a pullback. But again, both on a daily chart and a 240-minute chart, we've got some additional demand zones that we can use to get back in, get back in for longer and bigger moves up overall. Ethereum, we're still coming out of this daily zone here. Nothing else to look at on the big picture up there. On a 240-minute chart, we've still got this area up top that we are very interested in here, and we haven't quite gotten to it yet. If price comes back down and continues the downtrend here, I would absolutely take this off. This is not going to hold. So obviously, since we can't short any of these markets on Coinbase, what we're doing, if you are trading on a different platform, you may be able to. Again, if price drops below this area right here, I would not take a trade coming out of this zone, because you would have established a much bigger downtrend, which means by the time price got back up there, you would be in a neutral or an uptrend state overall. Okay, and looking at some of the other areas here, nothing really jumping out at me that we want to try and take advantage of on a shorter term basis. There's nothing here that's strong enough that I want to call it an actual day trade. DOT, got to do a little bit of zone cleanup here in the 15-minute chart. You can see those were previous zones that actually worked. I just haven't had a chance to log them in our tracker yet. Some additional strength over the last couple of days. Not creating any significant other demand zones though, so nothing that I'm excited about trying to get into here. So we won't try and force a trade. If one's not there, it's just not there. Dogecoin just continues to be a little bit erratic. Again, remember, this is one of the few cryptocurrencies that's not based on anything real, right? It's just a meme, so just be careful with that if you are actively trading it. Right? It's less probability that it's going to turn into anything big, honestly. All right, AVAX has some good things going on for it as well, in a very, very strong supply zone on the daily chart here. Now we did create an additional demand zone here that we are currently in, and actually this one we would have already hit target had we gotten into this one on time. But I would say this zone here would not surprise me if this thing held and dropped price back down. If it does, it's going to probably come down through this zone right here. So I wouldn't take this one again. Just let the price drop back down and pick up something else below. We do have some additional strength here on a 240-minute chart though. So I would watch for a couple of other indicators, primarily Bollinger Bands and maybe some negative divergence on RSI at the 60-minute area. If that happens, then this may end up being a reasonable intermediate time frame trade. Probably come in here, maybe take a day or two, come up, hit our target, and then potentially come back down based on that daily zone that we just looked at there. Nothing really good on the 60-minute chart. I don't see anything on the 15 either that I'm interested in. So let's go over to Shiba coin, and still a little frustrated about not being able to get into this trade right here. Again, if you didn't catch this show yesterday, my entry point for this one was 28.20. Price actually came down, hit 28.20, but wasn't there long enough, and so it didn't fill the trade. But as you saw, price just exploded out of there and is continuing up very, very strong out of that daily zone. So what you do when you miss those, right? You don't chase them. You look for good solid retracements to get back into, since we do know that that's going to be a bit of a stronger move up. And the just overall issue here is it didn't really create a whole lot of areas for us to get back into. So looking at these, you've got this area right here, which is probably the most likely, just based on location. And when you look left, right, you can see price did change here, so a fair amount of imbalance in this area. But other than that, it didn't really create anything else that was worth getting into. So looking at a 60-minute chart, right, same thing, where we just, there really just isn't any good solid areas to get back in on this one. So sometimes you just miss, and when that happens, you've got to be able to learn to just walk away. Right? There's no reason to chase price. There's always another trade coming up. I know I'm saying this, in a lot of cases for myself as well. Right? If I say it out loud enough, yeah, sometimes I will actually believe it too. It can be hard. So looking at a 15-minute area, I'm just looking down here, and again, there's nothing that's really jumping out at me that I'm willing to take a trade on. Matic had good strong move up last couple of days, not really creating anything on a daily chart. We do have this area on the 240-minute. Oops, didn't mean to do that. There we go. I was looking more for a quick retracement into this area than I was it setting itself up for a longer, a bigger move back down again. So just be cautious if price does come back down here. Now, oddly enough, right, we did have this zone created right here. Location is almost good. If you look over here, right, the whole move here actually didn't take this out. Didn't take this. Let me zoom in on those two to help out. Right, it didn't take this pivot high out. Try and get them both in at the same time. The reason why I say that, we didn't get a close above it. You got the wicks above it, but if you look all the way over here, and let me draw an actual line here so you can see this very clearly. Right, those candles did not close above that line. So this would just be more of a gamble than an actual high probability trade. But again, we don't know what happens with cryptocurrencies, so that's why we're doing this. So I'll mark this as a zone, and we'll track it and put it into our database. And as we get more and more of those, we'll be able to make good, solid decisions on what we do with our trades moving forward. And nothing else on a 15-minute chart either that I'm interested in. Excuse me, CRO. On a 240-minute time frame. Now, so we are in a significant downtrend here, a very strong confirmed downtrend. So your longs are less likely to work, but I kind of like this area right here, just from the location of this zone, and then this other candle down here is technically a base candle, right? It's a 50-50 one. So you've got a couple of areas here that are worth watching. And then looking up and left, right, you've got this area here, which has been touched, but is still relatively strong. All right, 60-minute area, nothing there. 15. Got probably a pretty reasonable day trade area right here. And mostly just because of the location and structure of this. Yeah, either of these two zones here, I would say the lower one is probably the likelier entry point. So yeah, we'll definitely track these, and as long as it, when we do our trade scorecard, if we're above an 8 on this one, we will take these trades here. All right, wrapped Bitcoin. You can see we're still, coming down out of this 240-minute area, popped above it a couple of times now, but it's a very strong imbalance area overall, and so price is moving down pretty well out of it. And then you've got some pretty good zones right here on 240-minute chart, which would be good places to take day trades. I wouldn't take long-term trades out of those areas though. All right, Uni. Clearly the supply zone on 240-minute chart is working out and really holding price back down. We're overall in a downtrend, so I would be concerned about taking any longs, and I don't see anything on here that's enough interest to actually take. Let's look at algo. And still in the overall big picture downtrend, and you can see that, you know, confirmed again on a 240-minute chart, right? We're just setting lower highs and continuously setting lower lows here. So again, longs would not be, you know, something that you are trying to get into at this point, but there also aren't really any good short opportunities either here. Yep, nothing there. Link. So Link, we had, let's see if this was the case. Yeah, I know I'd sent this one out as well. So on a 60-minute chart, we had this trade right here that I had set up as an entry point right at 18. Price got down to 18.06 and then just rocketed up from there. And as you can see, you know, we're in the process of changing trend here. So again, if trend does change here, I wouldn't take this trade moving forward. But we have to break through this 20.4 area before that's the case. Right, and the reason why we may not break that is on a 240-minute chart, we are still very clearly not able to get through this supply zone here. Again, remember, we're in an overall downtrend, so that's not a surprise there at all. Hasn't created anything new either to get into, moving back up again. So just you know, keep that in mind for Link. Moving to Bitcoin Cash. Again, this is going to duplicate Bitcoin to some extent. We are just consolidating on a daily and a 240-minute chart, so not really interested in getting into anything there. XLM. We might be making a little bit of a move up right now. You'd have to wait, you know, until price breaks this 28 line before we confirm that. And I'm just looking through the charts very quickly. I don't see anything that's been created underneath that is of sufficient of strength that I want to try and go after. SOL. This one is in a sideways trend overall, so a little bit of bias up then. I'm looking at 240-minute chart, nothing there. 60-minute, I want to go ahead and expand this out. So we have the 60-minute area way down below here at the 168, 169 area. Very strong. Talked about this a couple of days ago, this area was used, and we weren't looking to take it again, but sure enough, prices come down into this exact same demand zone and is still moving back up from there. So again, some overall strength here. Slight area of interest right here. Don't know that I would take it automatically as a trade. Look for some confirmation in this area, but the 178 area looks okay. All right, LCX. Really good response to that 60-minute supply zone. Continuing to push price lower, and I think, yep, good solid zone structure here on the 60-minute down below. I'm very interested in taking this one. Let's get the whole picture in here. Right, you've got just literally probably one of the better picture-perfect zone setups I think I've seen on cryptocurrencies. Good leg in, drop, base, rally, right? So you got your perfect structure here. Again, second leg out is stronger than the first leg out, so you would look for a price entry lower in the overall zone. So let's keep that in mind, but that is a very, very strong structure right there. ADA. Fairly reasonable strength up right now here, and we are creating additional demand zones. And just draw those out here. Actually, I want to go ahead and zoom in on this so you can get a really good understanding of what these zones look like. And so there's multiple ones on top of each other. right here. And again, just because we're still trying to figure this out for cryptocurrencies, we're tracking them all. At some point, once we get the data in, we'll have what what to look for to pare these things down and make sure that we are taking the best ones out of these ones. Looking up and left, I've got this area right here that if we could trade it, I would take this one, but this one might be a good place to use for a target to get out of any longs that you may be in there. Not sure why Dogecoin has showed up twice for me over here. Oh, we don't need to look at it again. So flipping over to the stuff that's in our crypto wallet, and just anything that's net new, wasn't in the previous chart that we're looking at here. So AMP, just a whole lot of sideways movement right now and very erratic. So not a lot of good structures there. CLV still in this trade right here, the lower zone, right down here in this one. And price is just really struggling to get up. There's not a whole lot of volume on this particular one. And so price is really just, you can see, moving sideways for days and days and days now. But in that trade, and hoping to get to the target here of 0.87. Let's see here. We've already looked. So XLM. This is another one that I sent out yesterday, and just show both of these zones and what I did and why it wasn't the right decision. But so you had XLM coming into this 60-minute zone right here, and came into it and then it just exploded from it perfectly, right? I mean, we're up. You could be, if you held on to this one, right? That's almost a 10-to-1 target for the reward there. But the reason I didn't take this entry point right here is because I saw another zone on the 15-minute chart that was just below that entry point and had a better overall structure and look. So I had this one right here. So my entry point was 0.2605, and as you can see, we just didn't quite get to it. And so it's one of the things that we're learning, right? And we're not sure how these zones react overall. So I'm just documenting that, right? The 60-minute zone worked. The 15 1-minute didn't get down to it because price tends to be responsive to demand zones in Bitcoin or in cryptocurrencies, kind of like it is in indexes, where they tend to hit the higher levels and just move up from there. You don't get a lot of a deep movement into some of those demand zones. Since we are moving up here, we're looking for additional places to continue the moves up, and you actually see here, right, where you've got this zone was created as part of the overall move up and is responding very, very well. Didn't catch this one in time, so not in this trade here, but just again confirmation that as price continues to move in either direction, as it creates zones, cryptocurrencies do seem to be responding to them very, very well. All right, and KR, that was a previous one. So just coming up out of this daily zone here and looking to try and get into other retracements as we move up out of here. And we've got one in particular here on the 240-minute chart. The wick is a little long, but not drastically so. And we've almost changed trend here. So would like to see trend change first and then drop back down and pick up and get this one in. But even if we don't, it still looks good enough to go ahead and take. QNT. We didn't have any zones here other than the daily one that we're still watching. We haven't hit just yet. We had this, I think, a 60-minute. Yeah. So still tracking this area here. Again, trying to figure out what picture perfect zones do for for cryptocurrency trades, but as you can see, price is going to struggle getting through this whole entire area right here. So I wouldn't expect a big move up on QNT past the $200 range. It will struggle getting through there. FET created some additional zones here on a 60-minute chart. So just, keep an eye on these, as these are, very strong areas as price comes back. If price comes back down in here, these would be great areas to take some day trades on. All right, Spell. So just a note here, since this is a relatively new currency, we did yesterday set a new all-time high. I mean, obviously it wasn't anything that great, since this is just a year old right now. However, into uncharted territories, right? And so we don't know what's going to happen here. So just keep that in mind as we are looking at this one. So going back to our 240-minute chart, I like the location of this area, and it's interesting, but it's a little bit messy. So, but go ahead and track it, because I really like what it looks like. I don't like what it looks like. I like where it's at quite a bit, actually. And then on a 60-minute chart, you see here we did have this area where we just wicked down through it. Again, this does seem to be, on some cryptocurrencies, you're getting these wicks down below it. Other ones, it's hitting right at the very top of it and responding up. So we'll be tracking those and see if there's any correlations that we can make on them. And nothing else. Oh, actually, I take that back. On a 15-minute chart, you actually have a really solid picture perfect zone right here. Draw out. And I'll just split this one. There you go. All right, IoT. Overall downtrend, still responding to the 240-minute supply zone. Nothing new created coming up from there. So not looking to take any of those things long. And then our LC. So another one where we had a good picture perfect zone on our 60-minute chart here. Let me just zoom in on this again. All right, and so as price comes down into both of these areas here, again, we would expect that the lower zone is going to have the higher probability of point of entry. And so as we see that happening, we'll monitor those, and as we get close down into it, we'll do we'll set up our trade scorecard, and as long as we meet an 8 or above, we'll take that trade as well. And close this one out. Okay, so that's it for cryptocurrencies. Again, you can see the couple of ones that we taken earlier in the week working out really well, and some other really good setups too. Again, as price comes closer to some of them, get a note out through our social media links for what the exact zone is, what the entry points are, what the trade scorecard is, and then what the target's going to be for those as well. Just going to jump back over here to TradeStation real quick, just to show indexes have started moving back up again, but not really from anywhere that we were looking at. Just going to run through those very quickly since we got another couple of minutes here. Yeah, we didn't get down past the overnight trading areas in any of these. We got very close to this area on RTY. So I'm just going to I'll zoom in on this real quick to show, right? So this is what I was talking about here. You had this retracement area on the 15-minute zone, a 15-minute chart, but wanted to get in on that before we came down to this 2193. Now, as you can see, this 2193 line really did, respond, pretty well. So it wasn't a zone, just an area of resistance that you knew price was going to struggle getting through. At this point, I would say this trade is, I wouldn't take this one, right? This was the movement out of it. It would have been a nice, good, quick, solid day trade, but price didn't quite come back up in there and trigger it. So if you're watching that, I would not take that again now. I think the price movement out of that area has already happened. And then on the Dow, we didn't get down to any of our zone areas there. So keep those in mind. Each one of the indexes does have a demand zone right below current price right now. We are seeing a little bit of overall strength in the indexes. However, not anything longer term until we get down to that ES daily zone. So just a reminder, we are not going to be online tomorrow or Friday. So look for some additional content coming out early next week for some additional educational videos, some more day trades for cryptocurrencies, and a couple of other pieces of content that we're working on that hopefully you will find interest in. Otherwise, we will see everyone next Monday at 8:15 Eastern. Have a great and wonderful, safe trading day today, and a great Christmas holiday time frame over the weekend. Again, see you all on Monday.